We haven't figured out yet how we're going to get 100 people here for all these things, which I think, and those of you who have already seen some of these know this, I think this is some of the most powerful content we've ever done at Grace. And that's a pretty high bar, which, by the way, we just this past week were awarded the Virginia Commission for the Arts is celebrating its 50th anniversary. And there were 350 nominations for what they call their 50 for 50 awards. They're giving out 50, identifying 50 of the arts leaders in the state. And Grace got one of the 50 for 50 awards. Lily and I were down at the Governor's Mansion 2 days ago, getting kudos for all the things we're doing and all the things the other 49 winners are doing. There were, as I said, 350 nominations. We're one of only 4 visual arts institutions in the state that have been awarded this honor. So that's pretty rarefied air. And we're one of only 6 institutions in Northern Virginia, including Wolf Trap, that have gotten the award. So we're super, super humbled. We're super, super excited. Of course, the only reason we get awards like that is because we get to put great content like the celebrities of the world in this space. And that makes us great. It's all about the content. So thank you, Sue. This has been a fantastic exhibition.
Well, thank you guys.
It's
It's
been awesome.
mutual thanks.
It's awesome. It's really great. So somehow, we're going to get 100 people to these things. I don't know how we're going to do that yet. We're going to keep trying. We're building a brand, basically. It takes time. Some of these have been better attended than others, but it's an incredible experience. You're going to see that tonight. I've probably gone on longer than was my allotted time. I don't know. I'm going to introduce most of you know her, but for some of our newbies that are here, and I'm sorry, I don't know quite everybody in the room. I hope I meet you before the night is over. And I should say I'm Robert Gowdy. I'm the current board chair here at the Greater Reston Arts Center. And that gives me the honor to always introduce our very talented executive director and curator. She's somebody who came to us after doing stints at LA MoCA, the High Museum in Atlanta, and San Francisco, the Jewish Museum in San Francisco, the Contemporary Jewish in San Francisco. She is going to be doing her own specially curated show at the Phillips Collection downtown in 2020. So you can imagine we're pretty pleased to have a person of this kind of talent and depth with us. She's elevating our content, she's elevating the experience, she's enriching the community in ways that I don't think any of us imagined before she got here. So she's put together this creative response series, and I'm going to let her introduce it to you. Lily, thank you.
This introduction is always making me blush. I was preparing my comments for tonight and then fell victim to a Windows update, so you're going to have to excuse me just before I could push print. Really quickly, I just want to thank you all for being here and for thank Sue for giving us this wonderful exhibition to respond to, and to our responders, who I'm going to let Sarah introduce in a moment. As Robert said, we're working really hard to elevate the content both in the gallery and the content that we're putting out into our community here at Grace. I was going to say a lot more, but I think I'm going to keep it brief since we're starting a little bit late. I need to thank our supporters. So Reston Town Center Association, Reston Community Center, and Arts Fairfax, formerly known as the Arts Council of Fairfax County, who continuously provide support to our programs and to our operations. So thank you to all of them, to our board, some who are here tonight, thank you, and to Robert, and always to the staff who keeps this place running day and night, every day, every night lately. So thank you. We've been busy here, we're tired, but this work is really exciting and keeps us going. I think Robert has talked to many of you and mentioned that though Sue's exhibition is closing so soon, I can't believe it, we're going to continue working together to bring something out into the park. Before the exhibition closes, we have a couple more programs that are coming up, which is why I have this here to get my dates right. November 4th, which is a Saturday, Sue and I are going to be in conversation about the exhibition, and we are going to be celebrating the release of her artist book, of which there is a preview artist copy on view in the gallery. And then on November 16th, correct? Is that date right? November
Yes.
16th?
Yeah.
Another Thursday night. Molly Donovan, the curator of contemporary art from the National Gallery of Art, is going to be here speaking about Sue's exhibition and the practicing threads of surrealism in contemporary art. So 2 programs upcoming that we're really looking forward to and hope that you will all join us, and please bring your friends. Without further ado, Sarah, our gallery manager and exhibition manager, is going to introduce tonight's program.
Thank you. Thanks, Lily. Thank you all for coming. As some of you may know, this creative response has been expanded a little bit. Usually we just have one responder, but you might have heard about the Now Be Here project that took place in DC. It was the 4th and final iteration, and they, for this one, wait, is everybody familiar with that project first off? You know, it's a photograph of as many of the female and female identifying artists that city can get together just to talk about how deeply underrepresented we are. Where are we? We're everywhere. So that photo took place last night, and they added programming attached to it that they're calling Now Let's Talk. So we had a creative response coming up, and we were like, oh, we gotta beef this up. So we have 3 brilliant responders. I'll introduce each one in turn. And for those of you who have been here before, we will have short intermissions in between each one. So first, we have collaborators PLAKOOKEE coming up. Everyone is very accomplished that we have coming, so I can't remember it all. I've got some notes. PLAKOOKEE is a creative collaboration between Justin Plekas and Rachel DeBucchi. Collaborating since 2013, they are artists and designers who combine a mix of sculpture, installation, constructed realities, and new media work. Their work often incorporates synthetic and man-made materials in bold colors and patterns that push the boundaries of color, space, and form with a digital approach. Rachel DeBucchi is an assistant professor and chair of sculpture and studio foundations at George Mason University's School of Art and Design. Justin Plekas
Yeah, how do you want to do it?
is a visiting assistant professor at George Washington University, teaching interactivity and the digital form, new media, and video. PLAKOOKEE's studio is in Hyattsville, Maryland, if you ever want to visit them. So, without further ado, Oh yeah, so they have a projection piece to display for you all. So we're going to play it, and while it plays, they're going to talk about why they selected this piece for this particular event. Take it away.
Yeah, do you want to? All right. Are we both?
Oh, yeah, please.
We're standing.
Right. Is that right? Is that how we do
Yeah,
it? Okay, cool.
absolutely.
So this piece was created essentially, it's kind of funny because with video work or time-based stuff, I feel like you're always kind of wrestling with like what's the right venue for it. So we think of this as more of like kind of like a sculptural piece actually, more than just an actual video screening piece. And so it's kind of, you guys sitting here like in a theater almost isn't necessarily how it was meant to be played, but that's why we're talking over it. One of the things that I was thinking about, and Rachel and I had discussed in like thinking about work that was a response, was thinking about how Sue had worked with materials, and obviously like the visual connection between this space and then how the materials that we use digitally and how they kind of like, I feel like I can see motion within this work a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, also the fact that Sue is responding to this surrealist work, and this feels very much in that vein as well, but really capturing the movement through the video that we feel is happening over and over again in these works.
We were talking about this earlier. Sue is, I guess, would you say traditionally, or like you're a photographer as far as your like your earliest medium possible? Anyway, I'm very much like what?
Poetry was
Oh,
first.
okay. Well, that makes sense too. Yeah.
It's all here, yeah.
We have some similarities in that our work is connected to imaging, and it kind of comes from a photographic background, but we kind of feel like we always have to push out into these other mediums, and so that's obviously evident in this show as well. So Rachel and I have been kind of doing a lot more of this like 3D modeling, and we're now working on a mobile app that deals with augmented reality. So we're kind of finding other ways to take these digital sculptural works and then putting them in spaces, like through meeting through a camera, essentially. So, also I think sound's kind of important for us, and it's like, in this show is also like, I feel like it has its own kind of tone, but it's kind of quiet too in the same way. Like I really like that. So, do we take questions or do we?
We were gonna keep the questions till later,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
if you could, if you don't mind, tell us a little more about this piece, tie-dye blankie.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, so a lot of our work has some humor to it, even when it feels like a little bit less so. But we had kind of been starting to think about how we could kind of bridge the gap between our sculptural, physical work and the digital things that we were making, the animations. And I was kind of working with these kind of, they're kind of minimal at the time when I was building them out. And I started thinking about how this motion that was happening in this like digital fabric reminded me of this blanket that my grandfather, it's gonna go in a weird way. My grandfather, when he had cancer, his sister had made him this weird blanket that had all these patches of fabric. And I really loved it, and when he passed away, my grandmother had given it to me. And so there was something about this that had connected me to that, and I'm really close with my grandmother. And so I kind of thought about my connection to my family, and then was like, it's like kind of like, the piece is kind of like for my grandmother a little bit. And so that's why it's called tie-dye blankie for Graham, because it was like my connection to these physical objects and the way that it kind of moved, and then how I'm actually in the piece a little bit, and so is she. But it's meant to be, I mean, I think it looks, personally, I think it looks really good there. It's meant to be like a back wall of the space, essentially.
Right.
And so that when you walk in, it was really dark, and then the sound would be really loud, and you're kind of enveloped in it.
Right. Yeah, we almost visualize these large scale, even more of the scale of these pieces, so that really works together.
Yeah.
Anything else? Well, does anybody have a question that they want to throw in right now?
Technically, how did you get the forms, just technically? How did you put
Like,
it
how are they built
together?
out?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Is
so-
it just done on a computer? Are there real objects that you then photo? I mean, just the basics.
Yeah.
How did you?
So sometimes we do make real objects that then we scan and bring them in.
Yeah, they're all informing each other, which I think also connects a lot with what Sue is doing, where you have the digital mode, and then you also have these real relationships in the world, and then working with materials and sculptures as well. So it's all kind of overlapping, and that's always happening for us. We're making physical objects, we're bringing it back into the digital, and then we'll even pull some of the digital tools that we can use and say, can we make them in real life?
Yeah.
So it's constantly a push-pull.
So in a simple way to answer your question, this was made in a program called Cinema 4D. So it's a 3D model, right? But then we're making some things that kind of look like this in real life. And the thing that's the benefit, at least for us now, is that once I make this digitally in the computer, this file can be outputted as a physical object now. Like it can be 3D printed. So like we could take a frame of this as it exists and maybe extract the background and be able to print or have that fabricated. So it can exist as an animation. Excuse me.
Can it be kinetic?
No, it wouldn't. It would be a still. It would be a still.
Still.
It's not yet. I mean, if we could, it could be created. We could augment it, like set it up so that the space could be. You could hold your camera up. It would find the floor, and then we could have that floating in this space as long as you look through your camera, which is essentially what we're working on right now, which isn't going to come out till December. But you would hold this up, and once you locate the floor, you'd be able to watch the video and see it float. I mean, IKEA's even doing that to sell furniture, so it's happening more and more all the time. You know, I think as an artist, like in 2017, like I absolutely respect people that have one medium and they totally roll with that, and that's fine. I think for us, it really works for us to keep things really malleable and just let everything bleed into each other. That's the way I see it.
Well, and that push-pull that you mentioned really reminds me of Sue's process too. Like there's this constant layering and reprocessing of experiences. So
Yeah.
I'm glad that
Yeah, and I think it's really cool to it's like you obviously have this awesome sculpture in here, but then you have these sculptures that you've done in other places, it's cool to have a photograph that acts one as a beautiful photograph and also documentation of these things that have existed outside of this space.
Right.
You know.
Right, and that these ideas are constantly flowing from one to the other. Like we were just having a discussion about having one of the sculptures actually become physical outside. You know, so it starts to move to different locations and through different boundaries, and as it does, it morphs. And I think that's very much the way we think about making our art, is that it's constantly building on each other. There's no boundaries of this is what that was and now we move on. You know, so.
Wait, have you guys seen this IKEA app? Can I show it to you? Because I've been making videos with it, and I think it's pretty ridiculous.
Well,
So,
we do have to take a short intermission in between, so if you want to.
I'm just gonna lay one right. Look.
Okay.
So you can take this. So I just put it in the wastebasket, like right in the
So you
space.
can see if you like the furniture in your space.
Yeah. See, it didn't take that. So and you can record it, so then you can end up making videos of yourself doing weird stuff with the IKEA furniture.
They're doing that with Walking Dead. You can get the
Yeah.
zombies and put the zombies.
Yeah, totally. And so Apple just released this thing called AR Kit, which is their development. And so it's like people are starting to use this a lot more, which is, you know.
So if you follow PLAKOOKEE or Justin on Instagram, you can see a lot of these videos that we're playing with.
Yes. Okay, thank you so much.
Okay.
If you guys do, we're gonna have questions later,
Yeah.
so just
Yeah,
say,
yeah.
thank you so much, PLAKOOKEE.
Yeah, yeah, thank you.